We're back. Yes. Um, so for some reason, the internet got quirky. So, which is it's usually good. I don't know. I don't. The laptop has never been super. This laptop has never been super reliable with internet. So it's kind of its Achilles heel. The router is literally right up there by the phone. That's that is my router. So it's kind of funny that it booted me off, and I am quite literally, uh, 4 feet from it, and I can pick that up like at the end of our block. So I don't know, but yes, Doc is back, and let me check on the phone here if the stream is showing up. So, all right, is this live? Live, yeah. All right. So, uh, yeah, let's change the view a little bit here. There we go. So this is the Professor of the Year award from the university where I instruct. It's under the Blue Moon. So that is cool. Um, Hung that today. So we can get a little bit of a close. We can go a little bit closer here, but right there is the Professor of the Year. It's all visible. You can see it. So, but yeah. So I'm just chilling down here, and it's nice now because the office isn't. It's so cold. My God, it between November and March, it was just miserable down here, even with the fireplace on. It was so cold, um, and then now it will be very nice in summer because even if it's 85, 90 degrees outside, it'll be like 72 down here. So Bacon saying, "Man, reminds me of the struggle of getting stuff out there for real." Yeah, yeah. The That's one thing with this. If I was to do a little more with this machine, I'd probably want the Wi-Fi to be updated, which I'm guessing is possible. So I don't know. I don't know when any of the firmware on this thing has been updated, or even like how to go about that. So I do have a cat that just came down here. So I shampooed the carpet upstairs. I didn't actually shampoo it. We have a shampooer, but I use vinegar, and then white vinegar, and then just hot water after that. And but I do like many rinse cycles and make sure the water's clear, carpet's clean. So yeah, that is hey buddy, that is it's got cat friend somewhere around here, but here we go. So that is hey buddy, this cat. Agrizer, I thought I missed you completely. Quick shower. Yep, I have crappy CenturyLink DSL. So yeah, this is just kind of I'm using my laptop because my desktop is being rebuilt right now, and um, just kind of testing things out. But yeah, I'm having a a second webcam, so I'll be able to switch between views. Then I might not have that working for a while. I've got the webcam actually, but I don't know how to exactly do that in StreamYard. And I'm thinking about changing my interface up to use like a soundboard, a mixing board, instead of just coming straight in. So then I could also take phone calls, and that's really not so much podcasts. It's probably for more consulting stuff. But I think with the studio overall, like, I'm just upping those capabilities. But yeah, I saw that Zoom came out with that Podcaster 4, which allows you to set up to take phone calls directly into like a podcast and things. And it's kind of, because some of the stuff I do, like people just in the meetings, it's kind of weird because people access from different areas. And, but anyway, so what's shaking bacon? That's Egg Risers, cat. But so yeah, so the house smells like vinegar right now. And once that'll just dry off in the next day or two, and then everything will be fine. But it does have a bad smell. So so yeah, that I actually like I like the shampooing, and there's something about like seeing the dirty water and cleaning. And I just use white vinegar, which is super cheap, still super cheap, about $3 for a gallon and a half. So, but yeah, that is, we don't have much carpet left in the house, that and then the bedrooms, but that is looking pretty good. So smells bad though up there. And tomorrow it's going to be Clean is awesome. It's kind of weird because I bought that shampooer, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago. Yeah, and I use it a couple times a year. Like, so we don't have a lot of carpet. And this used to be carpet down here, but this, oh man, this always was musty and stinky. And we had some water one time came down here during a storm because our cover for a window was shattered. But yeah, so like this room now with the wood floor, like it doesn't have any of that smell, and it's just really nice down here. But yeah, upstairs, the fireplace room is the one that I shampooed, and then just like your vinegar and with a carpet cleaner machine, I guess, which having one it's nice. And then just keep going over and over until you get to clear water. But then it takes a while for that to dry off. Egg riser, basement carpet only seems like a good idea until you have it. Yeah. And I put that in 20 years ago. There was a carpet down here which was all bad and stained and stuff like that when we moved in, and then I had carpet put in, and it was cool for the first year, and then and the basement otherwise is dry. It was just that one event, which was just because, again, that window issue. But yeah, now having a wood floor down here, and this floor, it's a laminate. It's if it was underwater, you'd still be okay. Like, it's meant to not warp or anything like that. So. But yeah, so basement carpet is a bad idea. This is just so much better, so much easier to clean. I have the rollerblade wheels on my chair, so I can zip all over, and you couldn't do that with carpet yet. Just and two, like professionally, there really wouldn't be many people ever that would be down here. But if you had anybody down here, it's like, oh, sorry, like this is my office where I work. So but yeah, so I wonder what we're going to see with stock market type stuff going on, because I just don't know. I mean, this is the greatest instability I've ever seen going on with the economy, and I think it's far from over. They talk about you could have a lost decade. Well, those are the same people 6 months ago that we're talking about. The Dow Jones hitting 40,000, in 2022. I don't know. And so what do you do? Anyone who's working somewhere where you have a 401k, right? I guess you cost average into it now at a lower rate, but what if you've retired in the last 5 years and you're drawing off your 401k at the same time, it's going down 20%. If you go down, if you have $100, right, and you lose 50% of it, you have $50. If you have $50 and it goes up 50%, you have $75. So it's much harder to recoup losses than it is to lose. And especially if you're drawing money out. So it's pretty scary, I think, for a lot of people right now. It's like, how in the world do you, especially if you're close to retirement age and you've seen your retirement account go down anywhere between 20 and 40%, depending on what you have it in. And if you're locked in these 401ks, there's often management fees with that. So it's New York Outcast. Hey, buddy. Welcome. Only trust what's in your possession. I'm with you. And also, like, the way that I do banking is I only kind of bank more or less locally. I mean, somewhere where I could drive to within 2 hours, right? Because you can check and there can be, maybe something in another state or something solely with an online bank. But I'm like, I don't know. What's your ability to access that during, really stressed, chaotic economic times? I think you have a better chance if your stuff is local, but banks in general, who knows? But yeah, I've my possessions, and that was one of the things too that I to upgrade the desktop because I just don't know. Like, this business is doing well. It's one guy who runs it in town, and we were talking today, and he's younger than I am. But how long will you be able to get parts and the other stuff? Like he said, some of the things it'd be very hard to build, like the desktop. He said it would take a long time to get in some of these components. So I wanted that done, and I'm having some HVAC work done, updating a few things here in the next month, because I'm like, if that does, I just don't know if this stuff's going to be available, or the workers, are they going to be available, or are these companies going to be laying people off? And so, really doing as much as I can to, either take care of things or get parts and stuff like that if I'm working on anything. So yeah, I really have questions. And so it is a very nervous time. So, but not for this guy. It's our cat, one of our cats. He's usually not down here, so it's kind of a rare sighting for him to be down here right now. But not in this room. He hangs out different places in the house. But yeah, Bacon saying I have a bilge pump exhaust pointed at the neighbor's yard from my basement. So, oh my goodness. My neighbors had their house washed like 2 days ago, which is something I'm going to do. I have a power washer, and but yeah, it's kind of fun. It's kind of weird to see somebody have their whole house soaked up and then just hosed off, power washed off. It's like a big car wash for a house. This company comes in, and so, and their house, I mean, they've had new siding put on, and a new roof in the last year, and it's a nice house, very well maintained. And so I didn't. I mean, it looked fine to me, and I have lighter siding than they do, so things would show up a little bit more. But on my house, uh, but yeah, I need to. My house looks good, but if you were to go to the siding, I'm sure it could be cleaner. Um, so we'll see. But gives me a reason to use my power washer, so it's always fun. Um, so yeah, Bacon's to New York. I trust the possessions. Yeah, yeah. So so what does it mean? What are the indicators? And you know, for these markets, one of the things that I've never seen before is kind of like the stalwart companies like a Target or a Walmart or places like that just get pummeled because of like bad earnings numbers, where they lose like 25% of their value. Like I haven't seen that before with real established companies. I mean, I saw like GE just fade off to nothing 20 years ago, but this stuff is different. Like the way that stocks are getting dumped and these companies are getting punished, and um, and and so I just don't know. I don't know what that means. I mean, um, who's going to invest long term in these companies? I mean, where's your exposure? Um, because you think, I mean, right, if you would hold a portfolio that would have a big stake in Amazon and stuff like that, you'd probably be in pretty good shape, and that's just not the case right now. Um, so I knew the bank stocks were going to be in trouble. I mean, that just was kind of pretty obvious, but I don't know. I don't know what you do in this, or when it starts to pull in the other direction, and the Fed. Oh my goodness! Here we have a cat on the screen. A cat here. I have a cat. This is yes. We have a cat. Oh my goodness. So yeah, what do you, hey buddy? Is a needing attention cat. Um, so yeah, what do you do for investments? You just stay the course. I mean, which I guess you do, because I don't know what you move into, but it's interesting that bank CD rates um, aren't higher, because right now where I'm at, they're like 2% for a 5-year CD, and it is interesting because back even 3 years ago, a 5-year CD around here would be 3%. Now, you can say that, well, whatever, the rate is good or it's not good, but the point is, like, it is with rates going up, like CDs, certificates of deposit at banks and credit unions, share certificates, seemingly should be 5%, right, for 5 years or higher. I mean, it was very typical for CDs to be 4 or 5% 20 years ago. But if we're getting back into mortgage rates, going up, and you would just think that CD rates would come up. And I saw that the 10-year and 20 and 30-year Treasury notes are all down from where they were at like 2 weeks ago, which doesn't make sense either. You would think Treasury notes would be going up, and they're not really moving either. So what does that tell you? I don't know. Is it that other countries are flooding their dollars back into, is the U.S. Fed buying more bonds that it's issuing, so it's not changing the rate. I don't know. I can't make sense because it does seem at this point that we should have bank certificate rates. Like a 5-year CD should be paying at least 3%, if not 4% at this point, and probably moving up toward 5 or 6%. So, yeah, what does it tell you when that doesn't happen? No, you can't walk on here. Cat. You're not going to be walking around where the computer is. So that's not happening. I know, but it's not happening. No. So, all right. What's your plan here, buddy? So, I guess you're going to hang out here. So, sir. Cat friend over here. So, all right. Yes. All right. So what's your plan here, buddy? What's your plan? So this is a good guy here. His health is not the best. So yeah, you don't bite the cable, but he's lost a lot of weight and is having just not been a good year for this guy. So I think he's 12 years old. So yeah, he used to be really a big cat, like about 28 pounds, and now he's probably around 12 to 14. So, and he has some rough days, but seems like he's wanting to hang out here. So, yeah. It's a cat chat, yeah. CODs, so. Cat almost has the doctrine. He typically doesn't do that, but I mean, I'm typically not doing this either. So, but yeah, I don't. That's the thing. Like the whole share certificate is weird because as interest rates go up from the Fed and mortgage rates go up, it would seem that certificate of deposit rates should increase, and they're not. So these are all things that I'm watching, and so I don't know. I just it's Robert Ribbit Harrison. So yeah, I'm just doing a show here on my laptop. Not really a show, but just kind of testing this out. The desktop is not here. It's being rebuilt by the local computer guy, and I was still running Windows 7 off of that. I was running into issues and compatibility, and there were some other things that needed to be done with that machine. So it is going from 32 gig of RAM up to 64, and so we're in good shape. But I won't have it back until Friday or Saturday, and then or Friday or Monday, and then I need to kind of figure out the system, what software I lost in the process of the update to Windows 10 from 7, and get things back there. But yeah, I've got a couple. What are you doing here, buddy? You're not going to be on the table. That's not an option. Are you going down? What's the deal here? Are you gonna get down here? No, apparently not. So, all right, my friend here. All right, buddy. Purring cat. All right. Yes. Yes. Yeah, Agar eyes are very thin in his age. Yeah, that's kind of what's happening with this guy. He's really bony. Um, when he was big, I remember when my daughters, were younger and their friends would come over and they'd be like, "Oh my goodness, can we like hold that cat?" Or people take their pictures next to the cat. And we had some work done on the house, and uh, people would come in and be like, "Is that cat safe? Is it going to chase us or bite us?" And be like, "Yeah, he's cool. He'll be around you whenever whatever you're doing, right?" But you're putting a new valve in the bathroom or something. He's going to hang out with you the whole time, but it'd be totally cool. So, and that cat likes to hang out by the door when there's trick or treating, stuff like that. So it's kind of his thing. Um, so yeah, um, somebody left the 11th. The Velocity of Information has 11 um, stars now, or 11 reviews. 9 are written, and then I guess 2 are just 5 stars without any writing. So that's good. The School of Airs is up to like 52, which I thought was really good because that's had I think 3 or 4 reviews here in the last couple of weeks. So that's been nice to see. That book is coming out in paperback in July, and the audiobook too. But the sound engineer where I recorded that is still finishing up the files. So I'm hoping I get a call or an email from him soon saying, "Hey, they're all rendered," because then I can get things up probably in a couple of weeks. I can get that out onto Findaway Voices and Audible and get it distributed. So that's ready to rock. So yeah, Robert's saying got a 20-year-old calico. She's getting there, but still going. Wow, 20 years old. We've I forget what the cat's doing there. Unfortunately, I don't think we've ever had a cat live beyond 12 or 13 years. We've had cats, for the last 20 years. It just always seems something happens medically, and then so yeah, it's always been a strange thing. Now that was our oldest cat. Our next oldest cat is I think 11, and he is big. I'd say he's close to 30, and he is very kind of a big, strong cat. Interesting. If he was down here, I'd try to hold that cat up to show you. Then we have a smaller cat that is, I think, let's see, be 6 years old. So yeah. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out, what do we build up here for our reserves? And we have a second pantry, which I expanded on that side of the wall. Now there's not a ton of stuff, but and anytime I see things, I like to stock up on things that like a jar of peanuts, right? Because it's still relatively cheap. They go on sale and they last a long time and portable, and they're not going to go stale and stuff like that. And there's protein, and but yeah, it's unlike anything I've seen in my 50 years. And I like I said, I think anybody who's recently retired, or you're looking at retiring and looking at 401k, I mean, it's got to be pretty devastating. Granted, again, markets can come back, but we'd have to have a lot of comeback just to come back to where we were. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the end game is on that. So, but otherwise, it was weird because today I was up north, and I talked to the computer guy, I guess I call him, who's building out the computer, right? He called me while I was driving, and then it just went through like the car speakers and stuff. But I lost my voice. it must have been, I don't know, pollen or something like that. Like, I don't know, because I wasn't sick. It was so strange. And I just had this like acute laryngitis. And this morning I hadn't said anything. But it's happened before once in a while. I mean, but I think it was like, because like the car was a cover of pollen this morning. So um, kind of a quirky thing. But yeah. So anyway, I'm liking this quality because again, this is just the regular. Um, Cat is back. The mic off of the laptop and the camera off the laptop. And I think it's doing a pretty serviceable job. And then this is all backlit, which is really cool. Just it's a really nice. Again, I mean, for having this 7 years, I've used it probably 100 hours, and I did change the battery out. The battery went bad, and the battery, the like quarter size battery that keeps the time on your computer, that went bad too. So it kept resetting to the date that it was made, which would throw everything else off then. So I had to change that out, but that's cheap and that's easy to access. But so, dun, dun, dun. Any questions over in the chat? Mountain Dew here. Any questions in the chat? Anything here from Robert Ribbit Harrison? Let me make sure I'm still streaming. All right. Hello. Okay. Yeah, I am. Wow, man, that's wild. You here, I'm here. So cool. So one of the things, yeah, if you can contact me at, well, don't do it at the safety doc at Gmail. Well, you can. I'm not accessing that account right now because I don't have it linked on this machine. Um, I do have the audiobook of Velocity of Information is done. So that's exciting, although it's not going to be distributed until April by contract. But I've had a couple people do audits on it. So just where I'm, providing it out and saying, how does this, sound, and if there was like a companion document, I mean, it's professionally done, but if there was a companion document that went with this, like what do you think should be in it? So we're not like selling these, right? but yeah. So, but anyway, that's been good. And like I said, that is my Professor of the Year award, which I received on May 5th. So first time in 18 years, first time I was nominated, and it was cool to receive that. So that that comes a month following my defeat for city council. And today I saw the mayor, who's new. He beat the incumbent, and I saw him, and I said, we were just talking a little bit, and then I said, "How's the mayor job?" And he said, "It's much different than I expected." So not a good or a bad, but I assume that's probably the right on answer, because there must be so much that goes with that you just don't think about until you are actually like the mayor. So yeah, but we've gone quite a time here without severe weather. We haven't had any severe weather this year, which is, we're getting kind of late for not having a severe storm. We 2 years ago we're the one that dropped the tree on the house, June 2nd, 2020. But then we didn't have much last year, and so I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get in a pattern again. So the one thing now, storms, last fall I had all of the trees cut back, and they're like our neighbors' trees. So, they agreed to it because that's where the one tree fell from that hit the house. But, still, I'm not like that will probably be one of my biggest concerns whenever there are storms are one of the big trees going to hit the house. Um, so it's kind of weird but you get a whole different view on trees once a tree falls on your house, like in a storm. Then the whole tree thing kind of loses its appeal, unless the tree is far enough away where it's not going to hit the house. And because I'm residential, right, like that's okay in my backyard because my backyard extends quite a ways. So like I have spruce trees that are 60, 70 feet tall, but they're 80 feet from the house, right? And they wouldn't fall toward the house anyway. But otherwise, your boulevards and stuff aren't far from the house. So yeah, if you have pine trees close, cut them down. I don't have any pines. Yeah, so or close, cut them. Yeah, I don't have pines. So I have a couple spruce in the far back. They've kind of started to mesh together. The tree guy looked at them and just said, they're doing okay. Like, let them be. At the time, it's so funny because I planted those 20 years ago, and they were like a foot tall, right? And now they're like 70 feet tall. And I have something weird though. I think I have a hawk nest in the top of one of these spruce trees. It looks like an eagle's nest, but it's not as big as an eagle's nest. And it's not a squirrel's nest because like we have squirrel nests all around here, which are mostly made of leaves. This actually has pretty good sized twigs. And I would say it is easily 2 foot. So like an eagle's nest to be I've seen eagle's nests and they wouldn't be in a spruce tree necessarily, but and people have been saying they've been seeing a hawk in the neighborhood. We have plenty of squirrels and rabbits, and we also live close to 2 small lakes and a marsh. So there's water very, very close. I have never heard of a hawk building a nest in a spruce tree, but it is unlike anything I've ever seen before. So I don't know what actually lives up there. So it's interesting. Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what a hawk nest looks like, but it's not a bad thing. We don't have the cats outside, but it would make sense, I guess, if you're a hawk. There's plenty of food around here. Your cowcast. Every time I've had to fix tree damage to a home, it was pine tree. Oh yeah. Pine trees, I don't think go very deep with their roots, right? So, and we have they kind of spread out. They don't go down; they kind of go lateral. When we had all of the damage here in my neighborhood in 2020 with that storm/tornado, everybody who had pine trees, those things were toppled. You're right, and big mess. And then they would pull out this huge section of your yard if they fall because the root systems were close to the surface. But yeah, where I live, we would have 2 oak trees that are about 75 to 80 years old, which are healthy and have been trimmed back. Those would be the concern. And my maple in the front, I don't think is tall enough to hit the house. Um, my oak in the back would we had storms that wouldn't fall this way, and then the spruce are far enough back they wouldn't fall this way. So I'm just I don't know. It changes your whole. That is the thing. The winds pick up and all of that, and you're just like, oh God, I do not want a tree to fall on the house again. Um, that just really sucked. So I do have. So these are 40-year architectural shingles, which still look like new. They've been out here for 14 years, in great shape. Um, so I still have some of those. I don't know, a couple bundles of those up in the rafters. So if there was some localized damage, I could mix shingles in, and things would probably be okay. So I don't know. But we lost the glass place that replaced glass. They shut down as a because of the economy, right? And couldn't get help, and they've been here for like 50 years, so that sucks because um, can't get a screen replaced anywhere local and glass for the house. So that's something too I've been really observant of is what we've been kind of losing around us here. New York Outcast is saying, meaning roof and siding, I've dealt with plenty of pipe and basement wall damage because of roofs. Oh God. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Door shifted decks, porches. Oh God. Yeah, thankfully we have a poured basement. House was built in 79. We've been here since 92. Basement or since 2002. We never had a problem outside of the one time there was massive downpours, and we had a window cover which had busted out, and then the sill filled up, and then it just came right in. But I remedied that, and then I kind of re-landscaped that, and so that was the only time. But we have hurricane grade steel siding, and then we have stone on the front, and then we have a 40-year shingle, which is the thicker, but so hopefully you'd hold it pretty well. But of course, siding gets hit by a tree, then you run into replacement cost, right? Like that steel siding, we had that put on in 2008. It was expensive back then, and it was really a challenge because his stuff's really thick. I mean, so when they would cut it and fit it and all of that, it looks great. But like, could you get that today, replacement? And I mean, I don't have replacement siding. I mean, I've got a couple pieces, but how would you deal with that? I don't know. Grandma's favorite tree, 3 feet from the house needs to go. Yeah. I was hoping, so between our house and our neighbor's house, it's probably 20 feet. And in between that is one of those 75-year-old oaks. And it's on their property. And I was hoping they were going to take it down. They were contemplating having the tree guy just cut it down. But then they decided they would keep it. It was kind of sentimental. And I was like, oh, like the thing is, like, if it goes down, there's no place it can fall. It isn't going to damage one or both of our houses. So I was really trying to convince them to just take this tree down, right? But and thankfully, my neighbors to my right, one of their trees had split and was kind of leaning toward our house after a storm maybe 3 years ago. And if it would have fell, that's like it would have taken out probably my chimney and everything. And I talked to them and was taking pictures, and I actually had our insurance person, because like the tree, because then you could prove like this was a negligent act, like this was an act of God if the tree was distressed and they didn't do anything to remedy it. So they had that whole side of that tree removed. So that's great. It also is great because I would get a little bit of moss on the shingles on that side because it was so dense, even though I would cut back parts of it. But New Crowdcast. People are crazy. They just don't think or know. Yeah, that's the thing where even like the tree guy was on my side, right? He was like, this tree should come out of here. It doesn't make sense. And, and, you know, why I kind of get where a tree can have an emotional tie and stuff like that, but it's there's logic, right? You look at this tree, and if it falls, it's going to hit one of or both of the houses. There's no way about it. It's 75-year-old tree. It's just that location is horrible, and it's going to do massive damage. And so why not take it out? I mean, it's really obvious at that point. So, um, but yeah, it's not like we don't have other trees around here, too. So, I mean, it's a developed, you know, since 79, right? 79, 80, this subdivision. So, we've got a lot of nice mature trees. And then we butt up in the back against the park. And that's just like, the tree part of the park. I mean, the playground is further down, about 500 feet. So I don't know. That's kind of weird. I guess I don't think I would be that way. Um, I'd be like, no, I would just look and say this tree can cause some danger if it falls, like property danger. So let's get rid of it. Might as well get a snack, shade and privacy. That's a win-win in my book. So yeah. So I've, I don't have any fruit tree. No, I shouldn't say that. I do have. I have there's a blackberry tree at the end of my property. Um, I need to pay more attention to that because when it gets ripe, like I never would harvest off of it. I think one year though, I went out and got a whole bucket and cleaned them all off and ate them. They're great. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense to do fruit trees. Like we could easily do an apple tree in our backyard. Um, so I need to think about that. Um, yeah, that's that's very sensible. Um, so this is I've had this O'Neill hoodie forever. I always thought this was the best hoodie ever. um, and then I got my American Giant one, which is so much better than this. Um, so this one now I just wear if I'm working and just something like that. Uh, because when I was working, I set the desk from back from the wall about I don't know 14 or 16 inches when I moved it back in because the desk is 400 pounds. It was really difficult to move even on industrial rollers. And when I set it down, it's like that's where it was going to be. But I have enough room in here where I set it so I didn't push up against the wall because there really wasn't any need to do that. And I wanted to be able to always walk in back. And if I needed to move cables or clean back there or something, and I should have left like 1 or 2 more inches and brought this out just a little bit more. It's okay, like now, and it's not like I'm back there a lot. Um, but I should have left 1 or 2 inches on that. Now it's just kind of where it is. Um, and actually, what I did, I'm thankful that I did that. And I have my rolling file cabinets as an extension of the desk. So all I have to do is just roll those out, which is really easy, and then I can get right back to the desk. But it makes such a difference for wiring things up and um, yeah, there's really some cool thinking that went into kind of upgrading the studio. And I moved one of my overhead kind of extension LED lights to the area that I work in. So yeah, it's so much nicer. I think I need to sit down and look at my router, maybe update that. But I don't know. It seems to be running better now, but yeah, it's down here in the office. So let's change up as let's get a little different perspective here. So that's the back room there. So there, let's do that. All right. So I feel like the Cincinnati Piper, Luke Risner, with this view. So my backpack, which whenever I consult or do my university stuff, I don't, like I said, I don't really take the laptop with me anymore, because there just isn't a need to do that. Usually I just log into, if it's university, all the stuff is, I log in through my account there and everything shows up. So that's kind of nice, because remember back in the old days having to log a laptop around and PowerPoint and all of that stuff. So that is all good. And then what else am I? Man, I don't know. I don't know what else what I'm doing. One of the things I've been going through, and I'm just like, God, I've got like a lot of stuff. Not, well, I should say, like, I don't want any more stuff. So I don't know what how I'm going to thin things out, even like files, right? Even computer files. Like, I'm going to burn some stuff over to an external hard drive, but like there's some stuff I just don't even, it's like, it's kind of weird though, because like you can keep data cheaply, right? So what's the purpose of just getting rid of it? But yeah, I mean, my file cabinets, I want to go through and just, I do have some books, like I'm looking ahead, because over here I have a few more of my books, and 2 of those are for my daughters, from the originals that came in. So I haven't inscribed those yet. I don't know why, but I think I know why, because I looked through all the books that I got from the publisher, and I always check like the spine and just everything on them to see which books are basically the perfect books. Now all the books are like good, right? But maybe there's always a little difference in the way that the spine and how level and everything. No one will ever kind of notice that, and that's with all books. So I went and I wanted to make sure like I had the 2 best books, the absolute perfectly balanced books, and those 2 would be for my daughters. So I do have those over there, and then I have another book that will be mailed out to a reviewer, and then it looks like I've got 2 other copies that I don't know what I had going on with those. I think one might have been going over to the university library where I teach, and I don't know. They're all marked. It's been a while since I've kind of checked, but I don't, like, it doesn't pay to have extra books. Like I have a display book from my original box of books. I have my book that I mark in all of my notes, my kind of working copy. I have my one paperback, which is just my quick and easy if I'm going somewhere and I just want to be able to reference things. And so that's it. And then I have a couple extra books. I have like 2 extras. So I'd keep them for the kids doc. So you're saying, so I each of my daughters will have, just as they did my first book, a hardcover. So those are over there. So I'll give them their, probably this week. I mean, they know they're here. Like I just haven't signed them, right? And then you can still get access to my book. I mean, who knows, however long, but an audiobook could be out there. But I don't think I don't really like School of Airs, I have maybe 2 copies here, and that's it. Because there isn't a need to have additional copies of the book. Um, and I'd rather have my book out there and have people, so I have like my working copy, and then my kids will each have a copy, but um, and I don't go around, like selling these things and stuff like that either. So um, yeah, I don't I don't know. I have to go back and check where some of those are going to end up. But I always try to keep one book here in the house that if there was some reason I wanted to give somebody a book, like I could. I don't know if that makes any sense, and I don't know how that would exactly play out. But um, like if I was really compelled, like someone was here or something, be like, well, here's my book. Um, so, or yeah, if I was like interviewed by somebody and I was going to meet them in person, maybe I would bring a book and like sign it and give it to them. I don't know. I don't know. But I always try to keep like an emergency book that I could provide. If that make, I really haven't had to do that. Um, so it's cool having the books in audio. That is really awesome. Like I said, School of Bears will be out soon. It's all recorded. It's just I don't have all the edited files yet from the sound engineer. Like I said, I could get an email from him tomorrow that it's been done, and then so um, and then I have everything ready to go in Findaway Voices. Like I have the companion document. I've got everything entered, so it'll move fast. I'm hoping it's July 15th or earlier. School of Airs, which I narrated, and then the Velocity of Information is completely done, and that will be out April 1st. So New York Outcasts, that's something they may be able to pass on. Yeah, that they could pass on, their signed copy, or what if they had 3 kids? Like, would they, But I think I can run into this thought of like, there's this tendency to keep like a lot of books, and I just and books. I mean, books don't age that well either, unless they're kind of preserved, right? I mean, if you're talking like 20, 30 years and things like that, I just don't want to have. So yeah, my kids will have the books, and then um, and the digital formats, right, are there, and then the audio format is really cool to have that. And I have those. They'll be distributed, right? But even if they get off of Findaway Voices or Audible in 7 years or whatever, I still have those. Those will always be in my possession. I own the rights to those. So those are cool things. Your grandkids could be old school bookworms after the crash. Yeah, who knows? I think they would find that interesting. Like there is, I would think to actually go through a book, right, that a relative of yours wrote, which would be me then, down the road. Hey, like 30 years ago, your granddad or whatever, wrote this. That'd be kind of a cool thing. Vacuum seal a few. Yeah, I definitely could preserve a few. It's a weird thing. I talked to a friend of mine who had I don't know if it was a parent or if it was, I think it was a parent. We're talking like a parent had passed away a couple of years ago. His parents, and then he was saying, in cleaning stuff out, it was really weird to like go through the house and clean all this stuff out. And I kind of think about that now, like, because I have 2 daughters, right? So my interests are much different than their interests. And realistically, 99% of what I have they probably wouldn't be interested in and wouldn't pass down. So like, they're not going to be interested in, let's say, tools, right? That I have this whole computer setup, like that's not their thing. Like they would just want a iPad or a Chromebook or something. So all of the weights and the fitness, well, really like the dumbbells. But my bike, and so like say clothing. 99% of what I have be passed down. It would be sold, given away, things like that. And that's kind of weird. But it's not different. Hey, it's Vanessa Kitty. Hey, Vanessa. Hope you are well. I'm doing this from my laptop because my desktop, my voice is starting to go a little bit. My desktop is being rebuilt right now. And going from Windows 7 to Windows 10, doubling the RAM from 32 to 64 gig. Some other things, all good, but it was time. It needed to happen. That was a custom build in 2015. Hope to get another 3 to 5 years out of it. So this was a custom build. This laptop is really nice. I've only used it probably like 100 hours since 2015, and I'm using it right now. This one has Windows 10. I had put on, I think, a year ago. So this is I'm redoing and updating my studio, getting a new microphone, getting rid of the Yeti, going with the Rode microphone. So going with another monitor, so 4 monitors instead of the 3 down here, and some of that stuff. So tools can save you big bucks. Weights keep you in shape, yeah. Right. My tools absolutely save me big bucks, and weights, right. I've got nothing for the clothing unless they, making costumes, right? So getting tested for that stuff in the morning. 2 out of us 4 already tested, but oh no. Testing, okay. Getting tested for, the of 2020 stuff. Okay. Vanessa, repairing my recumbent trike. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry to hear that. Yeah. We have I have my bike, and then I used to have like a trainer to put it up on in winter, which was really a cool setup, but I never really used it. And part of it was like, you have to, it takes up a lot of space if you're doing that, and then the chain would throw off oil, and it just wasn't really practical. So for me in my setup for where I had it, but so Vanessa, you know how to contact me. I do have the audiobook, which was narrated by Ben Hawk, and looking for a few people to just basically, it's completely done, but I can't distribute it. I can't sell it, right? I own the rights to that, but that can't be out until April of next year. But I'm looking for a few people to kind of just give it a listen. And then, there's really not anything I would change at this point because it's completely done as narrated, but to listen and to give some feedback on, okay, if there was a companion document that went with this, like a PDF, what would be some things that should probably be on there? Like, are there some terms that should be on there? Like, I thought like maybe some vocabulary terms, because I tried to have things in the book like face validity and stuff like this. Like I'm kind of thinking I should do, because you can do a companion document with audiobook. So you have that option. Like School of Errors will have a companion document. That's what I already put it together. But I think for velocity of information, it might be cool to do like a 1 page of vocabulary as a companion document, in addition to the images and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm offering, if some people want to give it a listen, and to contact me. So just don't share it. I can share it with you, just don't share it with anybody else. And it would just be one mega file, 1 6-hour and 40-minute file, but it's like 500 megabyte. But yeah, I mean, so it's a great listen, right? It's but that's what I'm looking for. Let's get some. I gotta check. I think we got thunder outside. Let me check the radar. There were storms north of us earlier. Yeah. Ooh, we have a big storm coming in. Right there's where I'm at, where this angry pink cell is right there. Not a big storm that won't last long, but the vehicles are inside. There's nothing. I don't really see any lightning. I can hear some thunder, but a little bit of rain actually would be good right now, because we haven't had rain here. And actually, rain would knock down the pollen for tomorrow's ride, my bike ride tomorrow. So it'll be good to get this to come through. To read the book and also listen to the audiobook helps with the retention of what you're trying to learn. Yeah. So hit me. I'll probably get in contact with you, Vanessa. I won't until I have the desktop back, because I just don't have this set up to do all of that stuff. But yeah, the audiobook, I think, I love it. And there's some really cool style things in the audiobook, like block quotes are narrated differently, kind of like it's narrated like you're listening over a telephone. There's a certain quality. Like, again, Ben is a professional actor. He's on TV show Manifest, and so when he does things, I mean, there's a certain format, and we talked about how to kind of make these stand out, so the listener knew that it was a block quote. So it's really cool. Like, the first time you hear it, it's kind of weird. You're like, is that a mistake? And then after you hear it a couple times later, when these block quotes show up, it's a really, I think, nice change of pace. It's really a cool feature of the audiobook. And, Ben, to have the 10 interviews and the way that Ben narrates those was just fascinating. So, yeah, I am. It's really fun to have that all done. It's too bad I can't get it out there now. Again, I have to wait till April 1st, 2023 on that. But School of Errors will be out very, very soon. I like when books start right off. A small prologue is okay, but nothing long, and definitely don't. One every or yeah. So New York Outcast. So what I did. So School of Errors had Danny Woodburn, Seinfeld, Mickey Abbott did the foreword, which was brilliant, about 3 pages long. And then, I get into a short story, personal story, then kind of roll. When I wrote Velocity of Information, I really tightened that down to get people like, here's why I wrote the book. So like, first page and a half, 2020 hits, and I realized I'm in vivo. I'm there with everybody else, so I'm going to write about it as it's happening. And then, interviewing people who are difficult to interview, like, don't often give interviews, stuff like that. And then I got into like, here's the 7 parts of the book. Here's what you're going to learn. And then, boom, we roll right into it. And by page 4, you're starting to learn about like Carl, essential, non-essential, and Carl the barber up in Ossawa, Michigan. So I wanted to push that book fast, and also like the audiobook too. So once you're like 10, 15 minutes into the audiobook, like, you're pretty hooked. Like, you've already met a couple of the characters, right? So, but when I did School of Errors initially, I had one of my friends read it, who was at that time was a university professor, and he said, as New York Outcast, just as you did, he said there was too long of a prologue, too long of an intro on it. So I went back and I cut School of Errors down significantly and got that rolling. But yeah, Velocity of Information doesn't have a forward. It doesn't have any praise pages. School of Errors had praise pages, which don't appear in the audiobook, but they are in the actual book. So you have, 10 people saying, "Oh, this is a great book because of," and that kind of had to be that way because it's a book about school safety, and the book itself needed that credibility base. There was a reason to do that for that book. Um, so, but Velocity of Information just takes you, and it's written to be to speed you up once you're about 10% in. I wrote it in shorter sentences and shorter paragraphs to speed you up. So once you kind of get settled in, then speed you up and then slow you back down into some of the concepts. So so the book has been nominated for a Semantics Award out of the state of New York. So the award is due to the styling of the book, and also that and the way that it describes concepts, right? So it's really acknowledging that there's more to the book than, I guess, meets the eye, right? So as you start to study how the book itself was assembled, there's reasons the book is put together the way it is. The actual formatting of the book, the formatting of the graphics at the end, 6.1 through 6.4, there's empty space on the right-hand side on the bottom. And my publisher was not for that at all. The publisher kept saying, "Hey, like you've got this is too much blank space. We have to like move things around." I'm like, "No, like that needs to stay there," because when I talk earlier in the book about civilian morale campaigns and using visuals and stuff like this, when they did that and they did the Road to Victory, which was these big murals of people preparing for war and stuff like that, whether people at home or soldiers preparing for war or whatever, they would space them, I think, 8 feet apart or something. They would space them so you would have to take your eyes off of one and take a couple steps to get to another. So you would think and pause. And it was there was a science behind this, right? It kind of soak in. And I said, these have to be laid out this way because they're an homage to the Road to Victory, which we already read. Some people will get it, some people won't, but subtly they should get it. And if you mess with this, it's going to screw that up. So don't mess with it. And eventually we got into kind of a stalemate, and the book had to move on toward production. So they agreed to do it that way, which was the right way. It looked right in that format. But, it was kind of and I kept telling him, "No, it's right. This is the right way to do it." And then they'd be like, "No, it's wrong." And then I'd re-correct it in the proof and I'd send it to them. And then I'd say, "This is the way it has to be done." So, Vanessa, abstracts are important to give the subject matter in a nutshell. When you read the details, is learning and good stuff happens. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have the book description, which is kind of an abstract. There's kind of an abstract at the start of the book when I get into like, here are the 7 parts of the book. That's kind of that actually, I guess, would be the abstract if pull out on this. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I didn't think about that yet, Vanessa. But it's good. Also, even though there are 7 chapters in the book has a very, very robust table of contents. So each of the chapters has sub-chapters in it, subheadings, and all the subheadings are there. So if you just read the table of contents in Velocity of Information, you'll get a feel for what that entire book is about. The history that's in there, the interviews, like all of it will be there. So all you have to do is go through table of contents. So that was something with my publishers. we went back and forth because they said, well, if you have like 40 chapters or 50 chapters, it's going to freak people out. Um, and because I had like 30 chapters in School of Theirs, and they said, why don't we put these as these big overarching themes as your chapters, and then we can do sub chapters, and we'll put that in table of contents so people see table of contents. And yet, like if somebody sees the book, they're not going to have a reaction of, oh my God, like, there's 40 chapters in here. So it made sense. Like that was a good move on their part. Um, and, so New York Outcasts. I normally have a good idea if I'm going to be interested in 10. Yeah, and I knew that. Thanks for saying, but I know that after School of Theirs that I needed to have the hook right away. And that's where, as I would have reviewers go through the book, I'd say, are you hooked? And that's why I had the Carl Mankey essential, non-essential story right at the start, because everybody had gone through that, right? We were all deemed essential or non-essential. And I wanted to, I knew if I didn't get a compelling, relatable story at the start of the book and tried to introduce too much of the terminology, that it would become too clinical. It already has a little bit of a clinical feel to it because it's 471 endnotes, but they're all at the end of a chapter, Chicago style. But it is, it's a fascinating read and all that, but it is, how should I say? I had to be very aware to start off with the narratives, the stories, to bring people in, the shared stories that we all went through, the shared experiences. So I think I did it really well. Like I like it, and especially the audiobook. When working with Ben, that was one of the things we talked about is what are the hooks in the first 10 minutes? What are some style things we can change up in the way that it's narrated and whatever? Also to what's going to be the sample that we're going to use for the commercial sample. But it's really well done. I'm glad that I kept the layout of here's like the overarching themes of the book and what you're going to learn. It's almost like a syllabus, but it's not. It's very professionally done, and here are the people I'm going to introduce you to, and I think because otherwise, the book would be kind of nebulous. Like, what would it really be about until, you'd be going through some right up front, like here's all the things that you're going to learn, people you're going to meet along the way. So I did a really nice job with how I put that together. One of the struggles with Philosophy of Information about halfway through was I didn't know whether to put the book together chronologically, because it was kind of tracking 2020, although it goes beyond that and before that. But to do it like a chronological story or to do it in themes. And I initially started to chronological because my overall diagrams are kind of chronological, and it wasn't working well. And I was really frustrated one night. So I called Vince from Masculine Geek, if you guys know Vince, who's a writer and a friend. And I said, hey, do you have some time to talk, book talk, right? Author talk. And I said, I'm struggling. Like I'm kind of at this pivot point. I've got to go one way or another. Like I have to totally commit to one of these formats. And, we talked through it, and that's where it kind of came out. Themes made more sense. Talk about the themes and then use the timeline as a secondary thing. So that worked out really well. So Vanessa is saying, researching perspective readings for research as a student is important to sift through what you may look deeper into the materials. You don't get time to read everything. Yeah, and I had a ton of stuff that I went through when I was doing kind of my own lit review that prepared me. And some of that I'm digging into further, like 3D printing and disasters, like was really fascinating. A small section in the book about it, because the book isn't about that. It was about the information part, and that 3D has a big part of, right, information that we can share. People around the world could share, work together, collaborate on a file to solve a problem. But it wasn't like a big part of the book. That's not the direction the book was going. So I did have a lot of those things. And then also I give the readers, I introduce them to people they might want to learn more about, like Larry Lawton, America's Biggest Jewel Thief, a YouTuber with 1.5 million followers, and his own book, Gangster Redemption, so people can go in those directions. Morgan Rogue and her survival, not only channel, but all of the courses that she offers and things like that. So that was cool. I always had, right until the very end, I was updating like how many subscribers people had. It was a weird thing to put that in the book, and it always changed, like, because then their subscribers would go up, but the book wouldn't have all of their subscribers. But people wanted that, though. The reviewers wanted it, and people who I interviewed wanted me to say how many YouTube subscribers they had. Like, that was a big thing. So you get a theme in the book too, like with velocity of information, speed of information, that like these followers, how people get followed, right, and share information. So it fits in that concept really well. But it's fascinating because like 5 years ago, you wouldn't have written that in a book. You wouldn't have identified somebody as kind of a YouTuber with this channel and whatever. But it's pretty commonplace now. We go over to the chat. New York Outcast. Time is one thing we can never get back. I prefer they get to it. Yeah, the book is 208 pages. It really could be. In School of Errors is 204. Philosophy of Information 208 could have been 300 pages. I think it was probably about 280 when it was done. And I had in my contract where it could be up to like 235 maybe. I'd have to go back. It was something like that. And realistically, people with nonfiction books of this nature want between 200 and 240 pages. And 10 years ago, they wanted between 240 and 280, and before that 280. And I mean, so people are getting, like, they don't want these big, thick nonfiction books of this type of genre. They want 200 pages. They want you to get to it, right? So that's where I worked with my editors and my reviewers, and I was like, let's take this out. Let's take this, or let's boil this down. Like, let's boil the story and get it down. So that's one thing. When you get to this, it's like a very fine maple syrup. Like, everything has been boiled. I have books that I read, and I'm like, the author wrote this to get to a word count, to fill up space, and that is not at all like this. There's a lot of great stuff that really got condensed, not to the point where a guy wrote it or there wasn't enough there, but I really got, especially the interviews, which is fun when you go through the interviews, because the interviews are about 3-4 pages on 10 different people. So so you get this really brisk and vibrant introduction to these people and how they're significant to the book and a few things, and boom, we move on and it's somebody else. So yeah, it's really a cool thing. New York Outcast said, it sucks getting halfway through a book and giving up because of interest. Yeah. And I would hopefully nobody has that experience. I mean, the book wouldn't be for everybody, but the writing is very consistent, very well done, and the book does shift about 70% of the way through. I shift to then talking about chaos versus crisis, and getting that very clear, because information is different in a crisis versus chaos. So I kind of lead people up to that with these stories and stuff, and then I kind of break it into these very specific examples, like the New York transit strike of 2016 or whatever, the 2003 heat wave in Europe, and so it works well. Like, the reader's ready for it; they know it's going to be there, and then I bring them back into kind of a reconciling of their emotions, right? Because if you think about it, essential, non-essential, the book kind of feeds along that with information, and how is everything authentic to you, and what is important to you as information and making decisions, and also kind of comes down to this thing like, what is essence? It's never overtly mentioned in the book, but what is essence? Because essential, non-essential, that's essence, right? What gives you meaning? What gives meaning to the things around you that you pay attention to, the information that you pay attention to? What is important information to you? What is essence? So the book in the last 20 pages really is this reflection to try to get the reader to figure out what is it that's important to them, right? As all this information is out there, like how do they start to come up with this game plan? So I think it's really well done. Again, I mean, reviews have been good and all that. New York Outcast, hey, take care, buddy. Thank you. I've been studying the 3D printing metal. This is Vanessa and their current methods. Yeah, I get updates. I get like a feed on that every day. So the stories you chose are perfect for School of Airs. Still reading philosophy. Yeah, thanks. School of Airs, yeah. School of Airs. So people who have read both of the books definitely see the similarities, right? School of Airs, ironically, even though that's a book about school safety and, you know, that one is more punchy, more humor because it's going at a straw man, kind of, not really, but like the industry of school safety and the craziness of how vendors try to sell bizarre things and how people get swept up into putting bollards, drilling them into the concrete in front of schools, and how we need to recognize just how crazy some of these things are. And it does, it pulls in just there's nothing like it in that school safety area, and people just in general looking at how rescue systems develop. Now, philosophy of information is it's a school of, how should I say it? Philosophy of information does have, I guess, more of a clinical assembling to it. 471 endnotes, where School of Airs maybe at 100. So I felt I had to cite that very strongly, so the book wouldn't be dismissed, right? That someone's like, oh, here's just some guy who wrote about like 2020-ish and stuff. Because there are a lot of books out there that are like that people are trying to sell right now. And that's where I needed this book to be really anchored, and also for the reader to have other resources to go to in an index. Use this book in that fashion, in addition to just being a great standalone book of stories and stuff that has a lot more it's a lot more heavily cited. Although it's, like I said, as you read it, it's Chicago style, so it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then at the end of the chapter, the end notes. So you're not getting bogged down by saying like, the Sean Ujifisu 2004 and whatever. So yeah, it's an intellectual read. It's going to be very much like John Ronson, Malcolm Gladwell, John Ronson's So You've Been Shamed, The Men Who Stare at Goats, very similar to those formats. Daniel Kahneman, his book Noise, very close to that. Thinking Fast and Slow. So in those styles, very much in those styles. And this book is more brisk. Kahneman is going, Ronson and Kahneman will keep you around for 400 pages, which can get to be long. Kahneman, I love Daniel Kahneman's work, but it gets long for me. So when I did my let's see here. I've been, here we go. Hey, it's Chad Elkins. My good, this is a new Chad Elkins show. Dun, dun, dun. So that is awesome. I caught it the other day. So thank you. It's our good friend Chad Elkins and his podcast, which launched, just in the last day or two. So looking at the Elkins Hour, looking forward to that. So yeah, Chad Elkins, the Oracle of Chicago. So is going to be at some point a sports agent accountant, because he's just going to be sought out by the best players out there. They're going to be like, we want Elkins. So it's going to happen. But yeah, good to see you, buddy. I'm doing this on my laptop. My desktop is being rebuilt and upgraded. My whole studio here is being updated. So I needed to get familiar with this machine. So this is going well. So, but yes, check out. But Chad Elkins he's a CPA, awesome CPA. Chad just started his own podcasts, the Elkins Hour. So if you subscribe to Chad, and I believe his first episode was a day or two ago with Aaron Clary and Atham Altikwa, so you're going to get just entertainment energy, and then some of your general accounting type questions. He might opine on those for you, give some perspectives on things going on. So definitely get over there, subscribe, Chad Elkins and the Elkins Hour. So I think I had a question. I don't know if it was answered or not when he did his first show, because a lot of people were in and a lot of comments, but it was, what do you do if, because I've been reading, these people who have been waiting 1 to 2 years for a federal tax return. What do you do then? And because, the IRS isn't answering their phone call, and you go to like the person that filed your taxes, and they're like, there's nothing I can really do. Everything's been filed and accepted. So what do you do in those cases? Because I know people, I have relatives who now are going on 1.5 years and have not received their federal refunds for typical stuff like that they would have received in the past. And they're like, so there's like a 4% interest that the government pays on the refund, but like at what point? And now there's like 30 million files that are lost or something like that. So I just don't know. So Chad Senior kind of stuck. Yeah. So it's crazy. Yeah. And then, yeah, at what point, if it becomes 2 or 3 years, is there, it's going to be really, I guess, hard to reconcile that. What if there is this, is there a point when the government would say like refile? Would they come out and say that? Or I don't know, but that's all things Chad could address on his show, but it's just so weird. Like, I've never experienced this. I've never had people, say like the long tax return or refund might have been, 8 weeks or something like that in the past. Now someone's telling you, oh yeah, like I've been waiting 1.5 years and I haven't got it. And I contacted the IRS on this date or whatever. And so, and everything was accepted and whatever, but I just don't have a refund. So Vanessa's saying, when you mentioned the torus and later mentioned the multidimensional one was spot on. Yeah, multidimensional, a torus within a torus within a torus. Remember narrating that. I knew you would mention the later, before the book was over. It felt great reading those parts. That was an awesome book. Like, School of Errors could never be written by AI, or it could never come together from AI, where you'd have Hobbes Leviathan, the interview with Katie Pashon and Cajun Navy and how that all works, and my access to the New York City Department of Planning, and that they assigned someone to help me, Yvette Claire Jean, getting me access to that. I thought that would be so difficult. I had to fill out this thing. It wasn't actually that hard to get access to documents at New York City. And then you have to do like, what are you doing this for? When do you need it for? Or what time do you need it? And so I'm like, fill it out. It didn't take that long. I'm like, if I could have this like in 2 weeks, and then suddenly, I think it was like 3 days, I got contacted. And then once we started going back and forth, like they started to work with me, and here's like your contact person, and they would release stuff legally to me. You can have this, you can have this, you can, for the book. But they were awesome to work with. it was absolutely awesome. And the 9/11 stuff I had access to was unbelievable. Um, and I think they appreciate it when I wrote School of Air. So I know they did, that I analyzed the psychological response to the harbor rescue. And it was also favorable on the way that the city did it and the way that they communicated. So um, there's one like that. The School of Airs is getting cited in more research studies. I can see that in Google Scholar and some things like that too, where people just contact me and say like they've cited it. So um, what's interesting with Velocity of Information, there are people who will email me and ask if I can call them or they can call me to talk about the book. So I usually do that, but I do it like through like Skype or something. So I can have my burnable Skype number, like unless I don't necessarily. That doesn't happen a lot, but there are people who are just like, oh, it's just so great to be able to talk to you, and I have some thoughts on the book, or it's all good stuff, but they're like, so that's been cool. And then sending out signed books. People sending me their book or something in postage and saying, hey, can you sign it and send it out? Hey, Vanessa signed over to the Elkins Hour. Vanessa's saying, on a Social Security website login required you to do a face scan called Live Check. So what I just posted today on Twitter, like that there's been a big problem with deep fake face scans and biometrics being hacked, which like that's totally obvious that was happening back in 2019 when I presented on PBS and I shared that the government had their first congressional meeting about it. I'm like, you can't just do this. You have to combine biometrics with password and multi-level, and even that's going to fall apart at some level. But I don't know. It's a mess. Chad Elkins is saying, we are just as in the dark as you. Our doc can still miss. Yeah, well, I guess I'm glad to hear that there's not some secret CPA society. There probably is. And the CPAs get together. Oh, like the commoners of tax filers. Like they don't know and we know. But yeah, that's everything I've been hearing too. And I think for Chad, like for you, if you have clients in that boat, it's got to be really awkward because they're probably coming back to you and saying, hey, like you completed my taxes, right? And they were successfully filed, right? Well, where's my refund? And there's nothing you can do. You've done everything. So yeah, it's just a mess. There's a 4% interest they have to pay, I think, after 90 days. So, there's a small plus side to that, but still really weird. Vanessa Kitty saying, there was stuff I submitted early in my career to U.S. Air Force. It was surprising to hear that material mentioned years later as being implemented worldwide. Here, yep. The general at my last active duty base came up to me when I got on base and asked me about that hearing protection lawsuit against U.S. Air Force in 1990. It began in 83. Whoa. I said, yes, it was. I was who started it. Whoa. Wow. So, yeah, absolutely. So, Velocity of Information was also pumped up by our local library. Like they made it their featured nonfiction book, which I just happened to notice. I was reading through the paper and they had it in there for the month of May. And I see that it's checked out. It's showing up all over the world, which is kind of cool. I have an interface where I can track where the book is in certain libraries, but it's in like China. It's in libraries in China, which is bizarre. Like School of Airs never made it in China. School of Airs is in hundreds of libraries across the world. Velocity of Information, though, is in China, Germany, Britain, Ireland, and it is really strong with its overseas presence, its non-U.S. presence right now. It's building up, and the books just came out in April, so the numbers just start to come in and where it's cataloging. But it has a lot of really international roots and appeal, which I guess makes sense. And one of the things too on audiobook is I expect that the audiobook will do very well outside of the US. So, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, the book is just, yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, School of Errors anyway was more punchy against the industry, but yet respectful, right? Because it's about school safety, school violence. So I had or have friends who had children who were injured or killed in school shootings. And at the time, I was sharing the book out with them before I was going to print and saying, I in no way want to make this seem aloof or out of touch, but yet, right, I want to make this where it's different than other books. And it does point out the, I think, hypocrisy of an industry that's built on such horrific events, that the capitalizing on that. So I was getting feedback, and they were like, yeah, this isn't offensive, right, to me to read this as a parent who's been through this. I appreciate, this perspective is out there. And that was very, very important to me, because I did not want to, that's an important value reviewers, right? I didn't want to put something out there that was insensitive, I guess. It's just not me. But so yeah, School of Errors, I could never put that book together. There's so many, and the people, Katie Pashon and the Joplin tornado. And it was interesting because my narrator or my editor for when I narrate School of Errors, and I got to the Joplin tornado part, he told me, he said, I was in Joplin right after the tornado. He actually was in a band, and he showed me the poster that they played there. And he said, what you're describing here, like that was, you would stand there and you'd look, and this entire swath of town was gone for like 60 feet wide, was gone for like a mile, and it ended right at the hospital. So he said, this is really vivid. And then, yeah, velocity of information needs, there was I don't want to say much deeper level in that. School of Errors, yeah, both have threads. Obviously you can see me in both of those books, right? I didn't do a big pivot, but velocity of information locks it down more on the research and then the stories. There's a ton of stories from Apple and World War II, and what he was finding with soldiers and stuff like that. So it's, yeah, I don't know. It's weird, like what you pick to keep in a book or what goes out. Plus, there's many more pictures and figures in velocity of information. I think I have 3 in School of Errors. I think I have 18 or 20 in velocity of information. So really, really rich context. But then also going to the audiobook, like how I would do that and make sure that the figures would still be represented. You wouldn't be losing that if you're just getting it with audio. School of Errors, it was tricky to narrate that because it's not written in a way that lends itself well to narration. Meaning, like I would say, like I have part four, and then I might have a heading. Well, that's like 40 seconds of audio. So it becomes its own chapter file when you download it. So it's really weird, right? Because it seems like it should be longer than that. It's kind of like an intro or outro. So, and then velocity of information, Ben narrated that, but that was designed more or less to be narrated. And I made sure that I really got detailed in the notes of what the figures were. So things that you learn from book to book. And again, Ben's a professional. He's an actor, Ben Hawk. So Ben did an awesome job. We worked well on that. Like I said, the book is up for um, 2 awards right now. Um, we'll see. We'll see. But national awards. So Vanessa's saying it was settled fall of 1989 in the highest payout disability discrimination case against government hiring to this point. 300 million plus payout. Whoa, back to families of 83. Wow. Sandy Hook just happened south of me. Okay. Yeah. I've met Michelle Gay. I wouldn't say I know Michelle Gay. Like, she's a connection on LinkedIn, and we've had some communications, but I don't know if I touched base with Michelle on School of Airs. I might have touched base with her when I did my PBS presentation in 2019. The 2013 presentation was Sandy Hook, which was 2012. December 2012 was the reason I did the presentation in May of 2013. PBS was saying, we don't have this. Could you put this together? We were going back and forth, and then I worked and put that presentation together. So those are my 2 PBS presentations. So yeah, it's really cool to have the second book done. And this is the point. I get more questions. People are saying, are you going to do a third? And as you can see, like those are the covers over there. The small ones are the audiobook covers back there, because by contract, I don't own the cover rights to the books. So the publisher owns the cover rights to the book. I own the book. I own the rights to the book. They own the cover. So I had to go with different covers. So those images were free. And then the typeface is from Google on those. Those are both professionally done by the same artist, my graphic designer. But Google Google typefaces are all free to use in any way, commercial or whatever. But if you use like Times New Roman or Helvetica or whatever it is, some of the word stuff, those are copyrighted. So like if you use a copyrighted font, you can be sued. Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, you could have a lawsuit filed against you or a cease and desist. So those actually, and then on the companion documents, they're cited of where the graphics are and the stuff. All these little things like you don't think about, but you have to really pay attention to things that you use, because of font you can end up getting it. There's more of that stuff that's being automated. So there are these bots that are scrubbing the internet, and if they're finding that you've used a font in something that you've produced and published out there, like into a PDF or something, that or if it's an image, like there's big stuff on images. Now, of course, like my books, every 471 endnotes, I have permission for all the images, and there's nothing there, right? But it is, if you self-publish, like that's something you really have to know. And like the interviews too, I had to get multiple levels of signatures and sign-offs for my publisher to go ahead with those. But yeah, everything is so thoroughly cited in Velocity of Information or School of Airs. Like there's nothing there for anybody to go back. And for me, it gives me a lot of protections if somebody does try to take that and go forward with it. My publisher to go after it. Actually, my audio distributor also has a pretty robust legal team to go after that. Yes, on your advice, I changed my company logo to a Google font. Posted a new one. Good for you, Vanessa. Yeah, I didn't know that until I got to the audiobook work, and the distributor was saying, okay, like do you have the rights for the font? And I was like, what? And I never, with book, my publisher took care of all of that, right? So, publisher, and then I learned, yeah. And again, I have the rights to both of those images that are back there, the camera thing and the brain, and then the fonts were Google Fonts. So everything is good and cleared off. And then there's a certain thing in the audiobooks. There's a certain in the intro, the credit, which has to be under a minute and things like that. But I have another kind of, not legal disclaimer, kind of like a legal enforcer in that, which adds a little punch to that. But so Vanessa is saying, for embossing leather, the new rounded ends help the image in leather. So yeah, that's cool. So all these things you learn. I've never had any copyright, and I wouldn't anticipate with any of the book stuff and everything. But like when I got the picture of the Oroville, California dam, I got that from the company that was contracted by the Department of Water so I got it from their lead engineer. So, and I got really extensive in my end notes on a few of those things of saying like, here's how I got it. Like here, he emailed me on this date and he said, I asked about the image and whatever. So, and I've got all of that stuff, but it'll never be contested. But you never know. There's bots again. Hey, it's Mictobis. Hey, buddy, I'm on my laptop. I've got the desktop is just kind of doing things here, but it's Old Humble. Oh my God. Holy smokes. Wow. Down here, first time on this super power laptop that I said I've only used like 100 hours in 7 years. So yeah, that's the thing, is these bots will scan. And so the bot might find a photo. Let's say that let's say the cover of that book, like that photo, somebody took that photo, which I have the rights to, but someone else bought the rights to it, or someone else took it and cropped it a little bit and then uploaded it as their own instead of a public domain or whatever. And then they tried to like sue you for it, but then it's this automated process and it's really a mess now. So like, you've got to be really careful. Or if you're posting anything online and you want to include a graphic, like I'm really, really super careful on anything I post that was a graphic. If someone has their professional image, a headshot, for the interview them, I'm like, okay, is this like a selfie, or like, did somebody take this? Do I need to credit somebody? Did you buy the rights to this? Because like that stuff just shows up in places, and it's these automated scrubbers, and you can get into a lot of headaches with that, because there's law firms that'll send out these settlement things and stuff like that. It's a mess. I'm not dealing with any of that, but I'm just saying it's you learn these things in the process. Hey, it's our good friend, both Mictobis and our friend Joe and Old Humble, award-winning whiskey. Awesome. So Vanessa saying, I have copyrighted many lines of code and government programs for use. Wow, that's cool. I need to. There are a few things I need to. I don't know if it's copyright or if it's what should I say? Trademark. And I think one is velocity of information, because there are certain conditions if you use it like as a presentation and you have, I don't know if it was, I had a couple terms that I could trademark. Again, if you use it in a commercial sense, like in presentations and things like that. So everything I did like met the criteria. And I looked into it, and you have to pay, I was like $250 at the time. It was like a year ago. But the trademark office, and then to get a search for what would be similar. And then I think the deal was like, then you apply for trademark. And then as long as you've done the search of due diligence and someone comes back and say, hey, like Philosophy of Information, like I copyrighted that concept or trademarked it or whatever, and then you could say it. Yeah, because how are you going to track what everybody does around the world? If you can show your due diligence, there's protection in that. Then I think it's whoever had it first, or it can go to courts or whatever. But like, there is some good faith in that. But some of this, for my professional work, for like presenting keynotes, some of these things need to hit the copyright or trademarking. So I don't know. I got to go back on that. It's not a big thing right now because it's already like in the book. So you'd be risking copywriting or trademarking violation against the publisher. Anyway, but that's kind of where I'm at. Is I'm building out some keynotes for this. So it's going to be in the 90s here by the weekend. Whoa, it's going to be not in the 90s here. We're actually going to be cooling down. So be 80 tomorrow, and then I think it gets 70s and 60s for maybe the next 5 days after that. So yeah. So tomorrow's kind of the make the best of it day, which I will. I'll be out biking tomorrow. Is it really 1 o'clock? Holy smokes. I didn't know it was this late. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get going. I didn't know it was 1 o'clock. I got to sleep. Otherwise, I will be sleep biking tomorrow, not sleep walking. So Mictabis, Old Humble, Vanessa, thank you so much. This has been fun. This is the first time I've used the laptop here to do this. And yeah, I'm biking tomorrow, so I'm doing a bike trek tomorrow, and I am old. I need to stay on the charger longer to fully be ready for that. Although the weather is going to be like perfect. So yeah, so you get to see a little bit of a different side. To me, like this will be the right-hand side when I'm sitting at my desk. And it's good for me to use this laptop. Again, it was custom built. It's like $3,000 back in 2015. Local place, like everything they ordered out for it. Like it still has like 16 gig of RAM as a laptop and like a big screen and like this inlay, really low key, like the keys, just this really nice, well-spaced keyboard. Like there's 2 millimeters between each key. It's just really well done and backlit and i5 processor. And I rarely used it because I just never really had to. Back in 2018, you were still kind of lugging your laptop with you at presentations or when I would teach classes, and then things just got stored with OneDrive or something like that. So there was no need to do that. So where's the bike ride to? Joe is asking. So tomorrow is really my first ride of the season because we had such cold weather, and I will not bike when it's cold. It's just not enjoyable for me. So it's just not my thing. People around here bike in winter, but there's another reason you get salt on the bike. But anyway, tomorrow I am biking past some 1,000-year-old Indian effigy mounds, which are about 12 miles from where I live. So I will do that route. I'll bike past the Indian effigy mounds, and then I will bike past a old levee system that was made in the 30s to get water from the Wisconsin River to fields. And I'll be doing basically a country ride tomorrow, and then it'll all be country. I will probably see very few people. So Joe, if you look up like or Vanessa McTwist, if you look up Man Mound, Man Mound. So the largest man effigy mound, and actually the feet were cut off in like 1910 when they put a road through. Just how stupid that was. What in the world? That is like 10 miles from where I live. So I'm not going past that mound tomorrow, but I am going past these effigy mounds of like bears and snakes, which date back to about 1,000 years. So that is those are burial mounds. They've documented that with ground penetrating radar. So those are all burial mounds. Yeah, actually, where I live, like in this 50-mile diameter, is the most dense area in the world for effigy mounds. And at one time was. I think it still is. Like, but there were several that were destroyed in the 1800s. You know, they're just plowed into fields and stuff. But I believe even to this day, it is within 50 miles of me is the most dense area in the world for effigy mounds dating back 1,000 years or more. Yeah, it is interesting. Like when I went to school at UW-Madison, there's like 20 mounds on campus. And actually the main building, Bascom Hall at campus, was built on top of a huge water serpent mound. So it's like the highest building, and they just built it on top of this mound. State Capitol's built in Madison on top of a mound too. And from where I'm at, the closest mound is maybe 5 miles to my house. But then these effigy mounds are this cluster is maintained. It's along the Wisconsin River. I think there's, I don't know, 8 or 9, and then there's some on private property too. But you can't go there. But yeah. So it's just a nice ride. I'll go in low gears tomorrow, and won't be doing much because I've been hiking, but I haven't been doing much. Like, so and it's be 80 degrees and kind of lower humidity, so they're good. But I don't want to push things too hard. I'm not really worried about the cardio, but I am worried about like the quads and things like that. So even like your hamstrings can get screwed up early in the biking season. It's because I'm in Wisconsin, so I bike until November, then I stop because I don't bike in winter, and there's snow and ice and stuff like that. So then I have to kind of rebuild, But tomorrow will be fun. It'll just be a fun time, and it's fun to see the crops, that are being planted and the fields being prepared, stuff like that. So there's a couple of country cemeteries that I go by. Some I stop at, grab a water and take a walk. Wearing a heart monitor for a month, 2 weeks ago. Vanessa. Yeah. I had a heart monitor when I biked, that hooked into my bike computer, but then the heart monitor didn't work anymore, and the computer I replaced with a larger cat eye, which it's cool. Yeah, my bike's all set to go. I should be good as far as that goes. There really isn't anything, I guess, to be concerned about tomorrow. Just it'll be a slow pace ride because it's early season. So yeah, that's a big drawback of living in a cold weather climate. And I suppose the plus can be there aren't scorpions and rattlesnakes and things like that, but it's a drawback. But anyway, tomorrow is just gonna be nice, really nice. So yeah, we also had the river is cool. It's really so. All right. Oh, Bacon, Old Humble, Mictvis, Vanessa. Appreciate all you. Fort Worth was biking year round. Here nuts, yeah. I would love to be able to bike year round. It's a big absence for me. I don't have anything to fill that winter exercise with, because this is the second oldest city in our state. A lot of places don't have sidewalks, so you end up walking on the road, which isn't a good deal. So it's yeah, it's just a bad setup for me. I'm very much an April to November person, and then I used to teach a lot of classes in the winter semester to just eat up time and free up time than in summer. So, all right. Well, this is your good friend Doc. I can't believe it's 1:15 in the morning here. I appreciate all of you. And I'm super excited that the studio is being updated. I have the new or the updated machine back. Be putting in the new microphone. Be putting in the fourth monitor. Be putting in the second camera. See where all of that goes. But yeah, it's been fun. I didn't do the show Monday night because I was tearing down and backing up things on external hard drives and making sure like if anything really catastrophic happens here, like this, but everything was fine. And like I said, I think I have 5 or 6 internal hard drives. I can't even remember right now. But only one of them, right, is the drive that runs the system. So the other drives are all just basically storage drives. So those should have not been impacted, and they weren't. But certain drives had a little higher hours, so like we had to look. But anyway, everything was good there. So the weirdest thing was like saying, hey, like there's this program that's backing up 1.2 terabyte of your drive. I'm like, is it on the computer? Is it sending it out? It's on the computer. It's in program. It's something from 7 years ago, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of vaguely remember. And he's like, well, let's nuke it. Let's get it off of here because it's taking up all these resources and doesn't make any sense. So, hey, Vanessa, thank you for thanking me for the show. I'm just glad to do the show. Just talk basically what I was doing and use the laptop, give you a different view here of kind of what's happening in the dock area. So take you one more time on all this was taken out of here in the last 2 days and put back, so this room was empty. So here we go. There's the 3 monitors, and then there'll be the 1 monitor above. And there's Mr. Fireplace down there. So here we go. All right, is your new camera angle going to show us a stretch of driveway clear for your neighbors? For your neighbors? No, it won't. Fortress of Awesometude. It is cool down here now. Because last year when I still the carpet is just stinky and musty and there's more lighting. So psychologically it's much nicer. And to have my book covers up on the wall, stuff like that, just and I freed up more space. So one of my neighbors, I think is I don't know. Like there's anyways, it's kind of a complicated thing, but yeah, I do help my neighbors out with their snow if they need it. So thankfully, snowblowers put away for the year. So yeah, Fortress. What else is happening in the Fortress here? I don't know. I've got to think. This wall is going to be painted, or the picture is. There used to be shelves on that wall up until last year. Originally, I had just for display stuff, and then it was always hard to keep stuff clean. It got dusty, and it just got to be a lot. So that wall will be painted some kind of southwestern color, terracotta maybe. And then I have a few more pictures similar to this one, which will go up there. So kind of have a southwest theme on that wall. I thought about putting a big TV over there, but then I'm like, it just, why? I'm not going to be down here watching TV. And yeah, I mean, I could have TV up there while I'm doing other stuff, but it's kind of what the fourth monitor is for, is just to throw stuff on, or a DVD or something like that when I'm working. So I don't need to have I don't really watch TV anyway. So I don't need that. But I think at some point I'm going to buy a portable green screen that I can just put up and down in back of me, and kind of experiment with that a little bit. So, all right, well, everybody, I am out of here. So Doc is going to be biking tomorrow. I highly doubt that there will be a show Monday night unless I do it this way. Which is, again, this is the only microphone is the microphone on the computer, and the only camera. It's doing a good job picking up the light. It's kind of washing me out a little bit, but I mean, it's pretty sensitive there. So yeah, it's going to take me, I think, a week to get everything set up. And I have some stuff that has to come in, like the arm for the monitor, and but it's going to be cool. And I don't know how that second camera. I've got the second camera already, but I don't know what StreamYard, if that's really going to work as well as I think it's going to work, where you can bounce between the two cameras, and how that works with Windows 10. So I don't know. Just going to kind of mess around with it. So, all right, everybody, take care. Dun, dun, dun.